Okay, in this last section, I'm going to demonstrate GE Digital's Operations Hub software. Operations Hub is an HTML5 web-based environment that you can use as the single lens through which you look at all of your industrial data. With Operations Hub, you can connect to historian data, real-time data sources like OPC UA and MQTT, relational databases, and others to give you a consolidated view of your industrial data in a common web environment. What you see here is the runtime view of Operations Hub. On the left is a menu that you can use to navigate to different pages. You can see here that I have a home page, a wind turbine page, I have a couple of substation pages, a trend analysis, and so on. You'll note also that I have on my home page, I have it designed as a kind of a landing page where you can start, and I have buttons on here that allow you to go to these other pages as well. So you can use either one of these for navigating to the content you want to see. I'm going to start with the historian trend analysis page or application. And when I go to this page, first open it up, you'll see that it's essentially just a blank trend chart that needs some configuration. I'm going to click on this configuration icon, and it will open up the panel for configuring the chart. And at the top, you can see we can configure the mode, whether we're looking at live data or historical data, and we can pick things like the time duration and end time, if it's looking at data leading up to now, or we can look at data going back in the past, or I can just pick live mode and I can say, you know what, I want to look at the last 1 hour or 2 hours of data for whatever tags I select. There's a notes option that allows me to add comments to the data in the chart. There are specification limits that you can configure to show an upper limit, a lower limit, and a target value across the chart. So you could compare these spec limits against the data that you're looking at. I have the ability to have all tags in the same y-axis, or each one having their own individual axis. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see this is where we can add tags for this trend chart. So there's a couple of ways to do this. One is I can just simply browse for my historian server and look at all of the tags that are available, and I can pick the tags that I'm interested in. One of the things that Operations Hub also gives you the ability to do is to create an asset model. And in the asset model, we can configure our assets and associate them with historian tags and real-time tags. And so you can see here I've got a power plant, I've got a wind farm. I'm going to navigate down in my wind farm to, I've got 6 turbines here, and I'm going to pick this turbine number 6 because I know I've got data here. And I can now pick some of the tags associated with that turbine that I might be interested in viewing. And so I can pick, I've got my generator speed, my winding temperature, a bearing temperature, hydraulic pressure, and so forth. So I've got 4 of these data sources from the historian that I just selected, and they now show up at the bottom in my configuration panel. And for each one of these, you can specify a pen color and a line weight and a line style and other options here as well. Once you have the tags and the other options configured here, you can then start exploring your data. As you hover your mouse over the chart, you'll notice that there is a little tooltip window that displays the date and the timestamp wherever your mouse is located, along with the value for each of these pins or tags where they intersect that cursor as you move it from left to right across the screen. If you're looking at live data, which I am, I can pause my live data update here if I want to focus in on this area of the chart. Once I'm finished, I can resume trending. If I'm interested in seeing the difference, let's say I have, like I can see this blue pin, it goes from, it's pretty high up here, and maybe I want to look and see what was the difference between what it was up here and what it was over here to the right. So I have a delta tool, and when I select this delta tool, it will allow me to place 2 markers on my chart. And over on the right, you'll see in the legend that it shows me the timestamp for each of the 2 markers, along with the values for each tag at those timestamps, and then a delta, or the difference between the tags values from the first timestamp to the second one. You'll note also that we have the ability to there's some zooming options. Here I can pick my zoom mode. Either I can zoom in on the x-axis, the y-axis, or both. So I'll pick both. That's maybe a more common way to do it, but if I pick both, it allows me, the system will allow me to drag a window around an area of the chart that I might be interested in, and when I release the mouse button, the chart will zoom in to that time frame that I selected. There's a reset zoom option here that allows me to then reset and go back to where I was just a moment ago. Next, you'll notice that I have a show statistics icon, and what that does is down in the bottom legend of my chart, I have the ability to show for each one of these tags in the chart, I can show these statistics. So it has things like minimum, maximum value over the chart range, the average, standard deviation, and total, and so forth. So this is a quick way for you to take a look at your tag data and also get some statistics on each one of these tags. Finally, if you look over here on the left, we have a chart configured, and we might want to be able to recall this chart sometime in the future without having to go through and reconfigure this each time. So there's a favorites icon. I can add this as a favorite, and we can call this wind add. And I now have a saved favorite that I can easily recall. And so if you look here, I've got a half a dozen or so saved favorites, and I can pick any one of these favorites, and it will then show me the data for whichever favorite I select here in this list. So it's a simple way for you to easily recall and view whatever data you want to look at very quickly. So that's a kind of a quick, brief view of the trending part of the application. Let's go take a look at some of the other aspects of our Operations Hub software. So I have, in addition to my trend analysis, I've got a substation page that is like a dashboard, and in this case you can see we have gauges up here at the top that are showing some of our KPIs, along with charts down at the bottom that show these maybe some of these same KPIs in a chart over a time period that you specify. So this is just an example of a simple kind of a dashboard that you can configure. Here's another display that we configured for this demonstration, and so you can see here this one has maybe for a transformer, we've got our primary current, primary voltage, secondary voltage on the transformer for all 3 phases. And so we can see that data, and as you notice, these values are updating in what I would call near real time. And I have some additional data down here at the bottom, like ambient temperature, my watts, and so forth. you'll see this value over here on the right. I'll show you what that is here in just a few minutes. But if I go back to my home page here, we'll show you one other example of another dashboard that we created for this demo. And this one is just another example where we've got a couple of gauges showing data for our wind turbine, wind speed, the hub speed, and some other information here related to the wind turbine. And then I also have an ability over here on the right to pick a tag in my historian and specify a time period. And when I click submit, it will update a grid over here with data for that tag. So I can easily add data like this to my my dashboard. And then down here at the bottom, I have another example of the trend that we looked at just a few minutes ago that you can use either as a full screen trend, or you can add it to another page like I have here where it's part of another dashboard. So these are all just simple examples of pages that we created to demonstrate the capabilities of our Operations Hub software. Now, the really powerful thing about this is these are all user configurable dashboards. So these are not displays that we ship with the software. These are things that you can create for your users very easily. So if we take a step back behind the scenes, I'm going to come over to my Operations Hub Designer environment. I'm going to log back in here. And so this is my Operations Hub Designer. I'm not going to explore all of these in this demo. This is meant to be a high-level demo, but what you'll see here is we're on this apps part of the designer. And on this apps designer, I have a Northwest Utilities app. And you'll notice here I have listed a bunch of different pages associated with that app. And if we go here into the runtime view, you'll see, let me stretch this over here, you'll see that we have, you can see the corresponding, there's a home page, there's a wind turbine 6 down here at the bottom, there's a SP sub right here, there's a transformer display, and so forth. We can, number one, we can show whichever of these pages we want to in our navigation, and we can hide things that we don't want to see. We can reorder these in a way that makes sense for your users and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the first thing to look at. The other thing we can do is, if we go back here to our data, you'll notice I have the display that's for my transformer. So if I go into this transformer display, this is what the designer looks like, and it allows you to essentially create your content from a blank canvas. And so you can see here I've got some like a label up here at the top. I've got these labels with these colors here in the middle. I've got these objects here. These are objects that allow me to display data. And in my menu over here on the left, these are all of the different kinds of objects that we can drop into our Operations Hub pages. So things like checkboxes and option buttons and drop-down lists and toggle buttons and images and text and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of objects that you can drop into these displays, and then configure them to display the data that you want to look at. So if I go in and select we have this object called an indicator, and if I drag that and drop it over here to the right, you'll see here that it now added that. Now I haven't really done any configuration of that object. That's done in our settings panel over here on the right. So there's a bunch of different settings that we can make for that, but right now what I'm simply going to do is show that I can display the data I want to display simply by finding the tag I want, in this case a historian tag, again, either from my asset model, or I can just search the historian directly. And if I pick a tag here from my asset model, I can just, or from my historian, I can just simply drag and drop that tag right onto that object. That data source then now is bound to that object, so that when I save this and go back to my page in the runtime view, so that's now saved, and if we maximize this and then refresh it, you'll see we now should have another one of these objects here displaying, these values. Now, obviously, we haven't configured these. That's the default settings. Just has a white background with black text, and they're a certain height and width and so forth. But bottom line is, that's how simple it is for you as a user to create this content that you can use then to display the data you want to display for your for your users, so that they can understand what's going on in your process with your equipment and so forth. So that's really all we had here for our demonstration today. We want to thank you for listening, and we look forward to helping you in the future. Thank you.